Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the MoneyShift YouTube channel. I am your host, Thanasi, and today we are talking about Polestar 2 for another episode of the Polestar Files. Now, in today's episode, we are going to be reviewing my car and what is included. We got the Maroney in front of us, and remember, guys, in the last video, I touched on the fact that this is a pure base model, which means the only additional option on this car is 20-inch wheels. Everything else is box standard on the Polestar 2, and that is pretty important because it level sets your expectation of what you can get for the money in this car. So we're going to review the Maroney, we're going to take a walk around the outside, we're going to take a walk around the inside, and you guys are going to let me know if you think this is worth the cash and prizes. But without further ado, here are the keys. Let's take a walk around.
2022 Polestar 2 dual motor Maroney. So we're going to get into all the details. Feel free to pause this video at any point so you can get the information you're looking for. At 100% state of charge, 249 miles is the range. And I know what you're thinking, Polestar, you think Volvo, you think Sweden, but this car is actually produced in China, and that is thanks in part to parent company Grille. When it comes to price, you are looking at $51,200, but more importantly, you're looking at under $50,000 before destination, which means in your state, this car might qualify for additional tax incentives. On the standard features front, outside on the design, you're going to find LED headlights and taillights, but on the performance angle, thanks to the fact that this is dual motor, you're looking at 408 horsepower, 487 pound-feet of torque with a 78 kilowatt-hour battery capable of charging at 155 kilowatts. Add to that with the multi-link suspension, you have an awesome performance machine. On the luxury and tech, you got infotainment powered by Android, you got heated seats, you got a power tailgate. That's about it. On the safety side, this is a Polestar, this is a Volvo. You got all that jazz, all of the airbags, all of the blind spot, all of the lane keep, all of that. Good warranty. We are looking at 4 years, 50,000 miles, 12 years corrosion, 8-year, 100K on the battery. So not as much as Tesla, but definitely more than enough. But that's enough of the Maroney. Let's get outside and take a look at the car we are reviewing for you today. The first thing we're going to touch on is this key. And I got to tell you, I don't know if this is a key to a performance luxury vehicle or a Fisher-Price toy for a 2-year-old child to chew on, but this is the key, and it is needed because unlike the Tesla, the phone as a key app doesn't work so hot on all devices. It might work well on Android, but not on iPhone. But who cares about the key? Would you just look at this car for $49,000? What electric vehicle looks better? When we're thinking about the competition here, we're thinking about Ioniq 5, we're thinking about BZ4X, we're thinking about Tesla Model 3, we're thinking about ID4 and Mustang Mach-E. And I got to tell you, out of that list of 5 vehicles, this thing looks the best. And in my opinion, it isn't even close, thanks to that fastback shape and that beautiful LED light bar, which gives this car a magnificent presence at night. This car cruises like no other thanks to that wonderful LED tail bar. You're talking about one of the best electric vehicles in terms of looks. Slam that tailgate into the tree and you'll see that this car is in fact a true hatchback, and that means it actually does have a lot of space. Close it, it's power, we love that. And we'll zoom in on something that I think is pretty interesting. All Polestars come with this sticker, but it's not even engraved in, it's just a sticker you can easily peel off. But it's the only way folks know that you have a dual motor, which means not one, but 2 motors, which means all-wheel drive, which means more traction, which means faster speeds. But the only way for folks to know that is by looking at that sticker, which is pretty interesting. As we zoom around to the front, though, let's talk about some specific design elements of this Polestar. Now, we don't have the ability to utilize this tech in the US, but these cars do come with pixel technology in the headlights. What that means is this car has the ability to illuminate or turn off certain LEDs in high beam. It's actually really, really trick. I urge you guys to look at a YouTube video of it. We don't have access to it here yet in the States. Maybe we will eventually. This is a base model, so no fog lights, but we do have parking sensors in the front, which definitely do aid in the parking department. Overall, this front shape, this front grille is very, very nice. I think it does a good job at emulating a conventional internal combustion engine vehicle while differentiating itself enough so that you understand that it is electric. Now, a lot of folks get this car confused with Volvo. Makes sense, Thor's hammer headlight, but Polestar is in fact its own brand, just like Lexus is its own brand from Toyota. Now, when we open up this charging port, you'll notice we have access to regular charging, which you can do at home, no problem, 110 outlet if you'd like, or you can open up this little compartment at the bottom, and now you have access to 155 kilowatt hour fast charging. Polestar says you should be able to do 10 to 80% in just over 30 minutes, which is pretty good, and I've been able to test that. I've done over 1,000 miles in this car, including a long road trip, which we will touch on in another video, and this car does charge quickly. Not as fast as an Ioniq 5, but it charges fast. Let's get into the inside, and we can show you guys what this car offers. Hopping into the Polestar 2, the first thing that you do notice is this infotainment. The second thing that you notice is the driver's display. Now, looking at the Maroney, you see that this infotainment is powered by Google Android, which includes integrated Google Maps, and that is the key. This car does not have some weird TomTom, some weird Garmin, some weird native navigation system. No, it uses Google Maps, a system that you know all too well. And while this screen does smudge up very easily, this system is very responsive. Look how quickly it renders as I shift around in this map. Now we'll zoom out, we'll zoom in, we'll do the whole nine, but this system does a good job at rendering very quickly, which is the same can't be said for other automakers. And remember, this is Google Maps. So the same display that you're looking at in your infotainment system is the same display that you're going to be looking at behind the steering wheel. And all of that is a system that you're used to in Google Maps. And I got to be honest with you guys, it's one of the better systems available. Even if you're leveraging Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, there's a hard chance that you're going to be using Google Maps as your main system to get you where you need to go. And this is a brilliant, vibrant display here as well. Now you have the option to configure this so that you aren't looking at a map and you have your range and your speed larger in the instrument cluster, but I like to keep it here because for me, oftentimes when I'm navigating to different locations, it's nice to just have the map there. It's easier for me to look at. But enough of the front seats, let's get into the back so I can show you guys the space. Now, what we try to do with any of our automotive reviews is sit behind ourselves. As a reminder, I am 6 feet tall, so that is where the front seat is placed. Now, sitting behind a 6 feet person, you'll notice I got a good amount of legroom, and thanks to the flat floor, I can put my feet under the seat. But what it does not have, though, is a true flat floor. There is, in fact, a hump in between the seats, which means if you are bringing 5 passengers, it's going to be potentially a little more uncomfortable for them than something like an Ioniq 5. You do have 2 USB-Cs, which is nice, and some good audio back here, and some map lights. We love that. And overall, decent materials on this door panel with that sort of pocket there for your hand, which I really love. It makes for a relatively comfortable experience. One of the things that is a drag, though, is that window does not go all the way down. That'll never be a problem for me because I'll always be driving, but it's something to note. Love the fact that there's 2 cup holders there as well. Overall, remarkably comfortable place to be for long journeys. But let's get behind the wheel and let's start with the around town portion. Now, as we get behind the wheel of the Polestar 2 and start to putt around town, nothing here is going to be shocking. This is an electric vehicle. It is quiet. It is easy to drive. It is easy to turn. It is easy to one pedal brake. It is easy to do all the things. It's so easy. I can't stress enough how easy an electric car is to operate around town. That's where these cars truly shine. The one pedal dynamic means that you're rarely going to be braking ever in terms of using the actual brake caliper. And if you are in the city or in town and you don't do much highway driving, this is really where these cars shine. One of the things that we like to cover in this around town portion, though, is how the sound system sounds. And I got to tell you, even in this base Polestar 2, the audio system sounds great. I would put it slightly above a base Tesla Model Y system, but slightly below a top-tier Toyota JBL system. That is overall my thoughts on the Polestar kit. I think the GPS is very easy to use. That infotainment system is very easy to use. You have access to Google Assistant, which is really nice to change temperature, change radio station, add points of interest, do whatever. You don't actually need to use that system. And I know a lot of folks say that in the past when talking about voice assistant, but if you guys have a Google Nest or anything like that at home, you know how easy it is to actually use this, regardless of your accent, regardless of your tone, regardless of your anything. But let's take this Polestar 2 out on the highway and see how it does there. Now, as we get up to highway speeds, one of the things that I want you guys to know about this Polestar 2 is it's fast. Holy hell, holy Toledo, this thing hauls the mail. 480 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 under 5 seconds. Guys, I know you see the buzzwords with cars like the Model S doing 0 to 60 in 2.1, but I can assure you, if you've never driven a vehicle that can go 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, you will think this car is remarkably fast. And hey, it is. You don't have to have a 0 to 60 of 2 seconds to be fast. But anyway, that's not what the highway portion is about. Let's talk about how this car performs on the highway, mainly in comparison to vehicles like the Tesla and other cars around this segment. Now, when it comes to autonomous sort of tech, the Tesla autopilot, if you will, you have nothing even remotely close to that in this Polestar 2 base model. You have regular cruise control. You'll see it's not even radar. It did not slow down for that Mazda 6 in front of us. It just kept on keeping on. Now, I'm sure if we were about to hit it, it would actively apply the brakes, but that is not the bones of a good radar cruise. This car does not have lane centering as well, standard. If you want any of those features, you have to upgrade to the Pilot package for an additional $4,000, which, you know, is a bummer. Tesla gives you that standard. The base Model 3 is pretty similarly priced to this Polestar 2, and you do get a little bit more in the terms of cruise control technology in that vehicle. Look how much glare reveals the smudges on that infotainment system. But the last thing that I will note on the highway is that this car is remarkably quiet. Now, I know what you guys are saying, ha ha ha, Thanasi, that's an electric vehicle. But what I'll tell you is compared to other electric vehicles, this car is isolated. This car is silent. That is particularly true when you compare it to a Model Y. But that is not the most fun you can have in a Polestar 2. This car actually excels in back roads as well. So as we take this car into a back road, the first thing that you'll notice is the amount of power that you have from these dual motors, especially coming out of a corner. As we accelerate here out of the bend, you'll see the rate of speed increase pretty dramatically and pretty quickly. This car definitely hauls the mail. I'm sure it would feel more planted with the Performance Pack standard Öhlins, but this car feels relatively solid in standard form. The one thing that I will comment on, however, is the steering in comparison to the Tesla Model Y or 3 is slightly lackluster. While it is good for a steer-by-wire system, it is not optimal or as good as the Tesla Model Y is or Model 3 is in terms of being direct. But let's boost it. Let's give you guys a nice little hardcore flooring of the throttle so you guys can really experience the speed, and then we will get into my final thoughts about the Polestar 2. Bang. Quick mashew. So what are my final thoughts as it pertains to this car? Well, for $49,100, you're both getting a ton and nothing at the same vein. If you compare this car to an Ioniq 5, a Toyota BZ4X, hell, even a Model 3, you're going to be seeing a lot of features that you're just missing. This car does not have standard a heated steering wheel like most electric cars do. This car does not have standard lane centering or adaptive cruise control like a Tesla Model 3 does. But what this car does have is a lot. This car has really good looks. This car has incredible power progression on throttle. It's not peaky like a Tesla Model 3 is. And this car is built like a tank. On the highway, you hear nothing. Around town, you hear nothing. The only noise that you truly do hear from this car is slight motor whir. That is the only thing keeping you from pure silence behind the wheel. And I gotta say, that's something to be said for the Polestar 2, because that isn't true for every electric vehicle. So overall, my thoughts so far in this review is that if you are looking at an entry level electric vehicle, you need to add the Polestar 2 to your list. I am Thanasi. This is Money Shift. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Polestar Files. We'll see you on Sunday, where we'll have another episode looking into the Polestar 2. Talk soon.